Before celebrity chefs convinced you that cooking required expensive equipment and specialized techniques. Before kitchen gadget companies filled your drawers with single-purpose tools you would use once a year. Before the Food Network made home cooking feel like performance art requiring professional training. American housewives of the 1960s kept efficient kitchens and produced excellent meals using simple tricks passed down through generations. Tricks that often worked better than anything modern cooking culture has invented since. These women were not just cooking. They were managing food budgets, feeding families of 5 or 6 on modest incomes, and producing 3 meals a day without the convenience of microwaves, food processors, or takeout as backup. They relied on thrift, timing, and technique to make every ingredient count. Let us walk through the kitchen tricks that every 1960s housewife knew instinctively. Let us step into kitchens that ran with the precision of assembly lines, where every technique had a purpose and nothing was ever wasted. The ice cube tray was the secret weapon. Every 1960s housewife understood that ice cube trays weren't just for ice. They were the original meal prep containers, the first portion control system, and the solution to a dozen kitchen problems that modern cooks solve with expensive specialized equipment. You would freeze leftover coffee in ice cube trays for iced coffee that did not get watered down. Leftover wine went into trays for cooking later. Chicken broth, beef stock, tomato paste, anything used in small amounts got portioned into cubes and frozen. 1 cube equaled roughly 2 tablespoons, making recipe measurements simple without thawing entire containers. The genius was in the versatility. Fresh herbs, chopped and frozen in cubes with a little water or olive oil, stayed fresh for months. Lemon juice, lime juice, even leftover sauces were all portioned and frozen for exactly when you needed them. No expensive storage systems, no specialized containers, just simple aluminum ice cube trays solving problems efficiently. Wax paper was the original nonstick surface. Before nonstick pans, before silicone baking mats, before parchment paper became standard in every kitchen, there was wax paper. Cheap, versatile, and solving problems that modern cooks spend significant money trying to fix with specialized products. You would line cake pans with wax paper before pouring batter, guaranteeing perfect release every time. Rolling out pie dough between 2 sheets of wax paper kept it from sticking to the counter or the rolling pin. Dredging chicken in flour happened on wax paper laid across the counter for easy cleanup. The trick extended beyond baking. You would wrap cheese in wax paper to keep it fresh without the plastic taste. Sandwiches packed for lunch stayed fresh, wrapped in wax paper that breathed better than plastic wrap. Even covering rising bread dough, wax paper did the job without sticking the way plastic would. The broiler pan caught grease like nothing else. Modern air fryers promised to solve the grease problem when cooking meat. Housewives in the 1960s had a solution that worked perfectly, and it came standard with every oven. The broiler pan had a slotted top and a catch pan underneath. You would place seasoned chicken, pork chops, or hamburgers on that slotted top. As the meat cooked under high broiler heat, fat dripped through the slots into the pan below, away from the meat. The result was crispier, less greasy meat, cooked in minutes, without any specialized equipment. The same system worked for bacon. Lay strips across the slotted broiler pan, slide it under the broiler, and you would have perfectly crispy bacon without standing at the stove managing splatter. The grease collected below, the bacon stayed flat, and cleanup involved one pan instead of a grease-covered stovetop. If you are enjoying these forgotten kitchen techniques, hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Brown paper bags ripened produce perfectly. Modern produce arrives shipped from thousands of miles away, picked before peak ripeness, and it often needs artificial ripening to become edible. 1960s. Housewives understood that a simple brown paper bag accelerated natural ripening better than any modern technique. You would place hard avocados, unripe tomatoes, or green bananas in a brown paper bag, fold the top closed, and leave it on the counter. The bag trapped ethylene gas that fruit naturally produces, concentrating it around the fruit and speeding ripening by days. Adding a ripe banana or apple to the bag increased the ethylene concentration even more. The technique worked because it mimicked nature without chemicals. The paper bag allowed some air circulation while concentrating the ripening gas. Plastic bags trapped too much moisture and caused rot. Open air dispersed the gas before it could work. The brown paper bag created the perfect environment through simple physics. The dish towel under the cutting board stopped movement. Every modern cook has experienced a cutting board sliding across the counter mid-chop. It is dangerous, inefficient, and entirely preventable by a trick every 1960s kitchen used automatically. You would dampen a dish towel, lay it flat on the counter, then place your cutting board on top. The damp towel created friction that held the board completely stable, no matter how vigorously you chopped. No expensive rubber mats, no specialized equipment, just a wet towel solving the problem instantly. The same damp towel trick stabilized mixing bowls during vigorous stirring or whipping. Wrap the damp towel around the base of the bowl, and it would not walk across the counter. Simple physics, understood and applied without overthinking. The flour sifter doubled as a strainer. Modern kitchens contain separate tools for every task: flour sifters, fine mesh strainers, powdered sugar dusters. In the 1960s, kitchens used one tool for all three purposes and stored it in a fraction of the space. The hand-crank flour sifter, with its fine mesh screen, sifted flour for baking, but it also strained lumps from gravy, dusted powdered sugar over cakes, and even rinsed small amounts of rice or quinoa. It was one simple mechanical tool, replacing multiple specialized gadgets. The key was understanding that most kitchen tasks involve the same basic action, separating fine particles from coarse ones, or solids from liquids. A good flour sifter accomplished all these tasks. Multiple single-purpose tools just filled drawers. Modern cooks use thermometers to test if oil is hot enough for frying. Housewives of the 1960s used a wooden spoon handle, and they got perfect results every time, without any equipment beyond what they were already using. You would dip the handle of a wooden spoon into the heating oil. If tiny bubbles immediately formed around the wood and rose to the surface, the oil was ready for frying. No bubbles meant the oil needed more time. Violent bubbling meant the oil was too hot and needed to cool slightly. This worked because the wood contained trace moisture that vaporized at the correct frying temperature, creating those telltale bubbles. The technique was foolproof, required no extra tools, and it gave you the exact information needed, whether the oil was ready or not. The mason jar shook dressings and gravies perfectly. Before immersion blenders, Before salad dressing bottles with special mixing mechanisms, there was the mason jar with a tight-fitting lid. The original shake and mix container worked perfectly and cost nothing extra. You would combine oil, vinegar, mustard, and seasonings in a mason jar, screw the lid tight, and shake vigorously for 30 seconds. The result was a perfectly emulsified salad dressing that stayed combined longer than dressing whisked in a bowl. The jar stored the leftover dressing in the refrigerator and doubled as the mixing container. The same technique worked for pancake batter, scrambled eggs that needed thorough mixing, even instant pudding. One versatile container replaced multiple specialized mixing tools and storage containers. The grater had more uses than shredding cheese. The box grater sitting in every 1960s kitchen was not just for cheese. It was a multi-purpose tool that modern cooks often overlook, in favor of expensive food processors that take longer to clean than to use. You would grate butter straight from the refrigerator for perfect pie crust distribution. Cold butter grated easily and folded into flour without warming up the way chopped butter would. The same grater made fine lemon or orange zest long before microplanes were common. It shredded cabbage for coleslaw, grated potatoes for hash browns, and even turned stale bread into breadcrumbs. The coarse side handled vegetables. The fine side handled citrus zest and hard cheeses, like Parmesan. The slicing side created uniform vegetable slices. One simple tool, 4 different functions, and no electricity required. Bread heels kept brown sugar soft. Brown sugar hardening into an unusable brick frustrated cooks long before moisture-controlling terracotta discs became available. The 1960s solution cost nothing and used something most people threw away anyway: bread heels. You would place a slice of bread, usually the heel that nobody wanted to eat, in the container with the brown sugar. Seal it tight and leave it overnight. The moisture from the bread transferred to the sugar, softening it back to a usable consistency. Replace the bread slice every week, and the brown sugar stayed perfectly soft indefinitely. This worked through simple moisture transfer. The bread had a higher moisture content than the hardened sugar. In a sealed environment, moisture moved from higher concentration to lower until equilibrium was reached. Basic science applied practically. What made these kitchen tricks revolutionary was their universality. Every technique worked in every kitchen, regardless of how much money you had or how fancy your equipment was. A flour sifter cost less than $1. Wax paper came in every grocery store. Ice cube trays were standard. The tricks did not require specialty stores or expensive gadgets, just understanding how things worked. These techniques disappeared not because better methods were discovered, but because selling simple solutions was not profitable. Kitchen gadget companies needed you to believe that every task required a specialized tool. The 1960s housewife knew that understanding basic principles solved more problems than any drawer full of single-purpose gadgets ever could.